And this is Adam Saint from at Supernova Wrestling, and this is the 3 Count Podcast with Red Dog.
Do you wanna get live with me? Do you really wanna ride with me? I'm in the club, baby.
Welcome everybody to another great edition of the 3 Count Podcast presents Now Entering, and I'm your host Clifford Red Dog Miller, the man that leads you up that mountain called wrestling. And by now, with it being like season 5 or 370 something episode, I would just hope you say it with me. I am your Sherpa, because like your tribal chief, acknowledge me. What? Like every good Sherpa, it's never about me. It's about who's entering the ring. So who's entering the ring today? Well, this person is a promoter. They are a wrestler themselves. They do their own podcast. They're in the entertainment business, going all over the place. Filmmaker, actor, you name it, they've done it. So they are in the ring right now, but we're also here to talk about their promotion, and it is Supernova Wrestling with Mr. Adam Saint.
Hey, thank you for having me on.
Hell yeah, man. So we actually met through a mutual friend of ours, Sean Carlson,
Correct.
over at First Championship Wrestling, 1CW
Correct.
out of Delaware. And then, I was very grateful that you took an opportunity on me to showcase what I do in Maine. And then from there, just kind of just developed after that, kind of met again at Focus Pro. And then, there was the shows, and then we were on your podcast, right? Supernova Wrestling Podcast. So, I mean, it's been kind of a wild trip since July of last year.
Yeah, I mean, let's just it's weird, right? How everything just meets together and whatnot. I've been doing this now I've been doing S&W for 10 years. And it'll be 10 years in June. Irony is we don't have a show in June. We just happened to have a show on Friday, July 19th, 2024 at the Beachmont VFW. There you go. My cheap little plug in to the show there. But yeah, it was funny because when Sean introduced me to you, and then I was like, sure, I'll book you on the August show and put you on the August show, and then the fans reacted to you really well, which they had no clue who you were. It was like and it was funny because when I watched the whole show, no one had real much reaction to a lot of people, right? The main wrestlers got reactions. We automatically known that any wrestler from the state of Maine was going to get a reaction in a show in Maine, right? So they got their reactions. You got a reaction, and you're not even from Maine, which I found out to be very interesting. Very interesting. And anyone else that got a bit of an action was because they were at previous shows when we did shows in Maine. It kind of surprised me, the attraction that you got from the fans, because I'm like, there was like no video on you. Like it was nothing. And it was like, you're going to go against Big Cat here, and somehow the fans loved it.
Yeah, no, it was definitely kind of cool to be able to work with Big Cat too, because obviously it was the first time that I had met him, but I knew of Big Cat from Limitless. So I was like familiar with like some of the stuff, and then we just kind of went in, just had a fun ass match from there. And then the crowd enjoyed it too. And I remember even after the match, I was like getting out of the ring, and then this kid, I guess, went to grab me, and I didn't see them. And so, I heard a parent yell real quick, Red Dog. And, I turned around, and there's this kid literally right in front of me wanting a hug. And I was like, oh, of course, man. I'm going to give you a hug right now, bro. and then picked him up and then gave him a hug and then bounced out of there. But it was a lot of fun, showing up and then coming back in too, at the end in a rumble. And the crowd popping again, but then I get to tell, then I get to show that there's this little tie-in between me and Trip, and especially because we had both just wrestled each other in Pennsylvania maybe the month before.
Yeah. Well, see, but once again, I that's one thing I like about, it's funny because someone asked me what's the good thing and the bad thing about being a wrestler and a promoter. what was it? OTTR asked me that question, and they had another wrestler with them that was from Florida, who happens to know a couple people I know in Florida. So, you know, so had a conversation. I said, "Well, it sucks to be a promoter and a booker." You know, I am not trying to shun anyone that wants to go into that field. However, there's a shit ton of things that people need to really learn. It's funny. A buddy of mine who helped train me. So what happened was I went to Killer Kowalski's, never finished training, and then I did a couple of matches here and there. I was an emergency guy, like the promoters like shit, like I remember my first match in Massachusetts. I had a match against some asshole. And the promoter had no one wanted to do double duty, not one person. And it's like he booked 8 matches. He only had enough people for like 7 and one extra guy. And that one extra guy was the main event. No one wanted to work him, not even under a mask. Like no one was willing.
Damn.
And due to his insurance, he couldn't just pluck someone out of the ring crew and put him in the ring. It had to be someone that was at least partially trained or has a understanding how the bump and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
So, my buddy's nudging me. He's like, raise your hand, dude. I'm like, why the fuck you don't just work the match? He's like, dude, he's like, dude, I opened the damn show. I blew myself up. And he's like, I'm pretty sure I broke my finger. He's like, I am not doing another match. So I was like, you asshole. So I ended up going in, and they had the community. We called it the community gear. And if anyone understands what that is, it's like this. The promoter has like a bag full of like wrestling attire that like probably was used at one point and smells like someone's wet sock. And that's what you have to wear with a disgusting lucha mask that looks like something you bought off of WWE.com, and you have to hope no one sues you for gimmick infringement there. So I do the match. It was a rough match. Rough to say because the guy didn't listen to me. I was like, hey, man, I'll do anything. I'm not comfortable with a German suplex. Reason why I wasn't comfortable because I never mastered the way how to properly land it. You know what I'm saying? Like, just you tuck your chin, but when someone just comes up, rushes behind you, and just flungs you, and you have no time to kind of get yourself situated, bad things can happen.
Yeah.
Well, the guy flung to me. I landed wrong. I ended up hurting myself really bad. I finished the match, but I was pissed. Yeah, it was. What's funny? I wrestled all the way up, and I started wrestling in 2005, stopped in 2015. So I had one match in S&W, only one. No, maybe 2. I don't recall exactly. I do know I wrestled a little bit in S&W, but I was like the jobber. I was the designated jobber. If someone wasn't there to take a job, I took the job. So I was like, yeah, I'll job. I didn't give a shit. I have no intentions. I have to get belts or whatnot. That wasn't my goal. So I wrestled all the way up until 2015. I started Supernova in 2014, a year before. I said, I know what? I'm just not going to wrestle anymore because I know the stigma people get when you're the promoter and you wrestle. And quite frankly, I can't do my job if I'm in the ring. So
right. And
like I said, a friend that helped train me, which is he goes by the wrestling name Xander Woods now. Xander Stone. Excuse me, not Xander Woods. I'm thinking someone else. But he used to go by DJ Crimson. So DJ John, his real name's John. So John, helped finish some of my training up. So when I wrestled, I didn't look like a complete fucking tool bag. And but he said the best thing. He's like, you never stop learning. He's like, if someone bitches at you and say, well, you've been in the business for X amount, I'm like, okay, but I'm still learning. The problem is when I started booking matches, I started booking matches way before I ended up becoming a promoter. I was booking matches for this sleazeball. Oh my God. I can't, I guess it's a good thing I don't remember his name. But but to be fair, he was the only person that would book me or book my friends.
Right.
So it was like that weird blind loyalty thing you do, even if you know it's probably like you shouldn't be a little relying yourself with this guy. So a lot of my bad habits came from him. He loved to cut corners, and that was the problem.
Mm.
So now me, I'm just so everyone know, I have autism spectrum disorder. So when someone has autism, we're very logic thinking people. So when someone says, "Hey, I have a way how to cut your budget in half," well, guess what? We're kind of all ears a bit about it. We want to hear what the logic is behind it. So he'll tell A, B, and C, and we go, "Oh, okay, that makes sense." But I don't like C because C kind of like contradicts what you're doing. You know, I'm bringing in talent. Talent deserves to get paid. But if I'm cutting corners, are they really getting paid?
Right.
But then someone also another guy that actually ran S&W with me for a bit. He did all the booking. He did all the arranging of finances with the wrestlers. So I actually hit a gold mine at that point. So from 2014 to 2016 was all me. I essentially booked, finance, all that shit. I did all that shit. I was a one-man crew, which sucks. And what sucks even more, that those 3 years I was doing it, I actually had people there to help me, but they didn't really help.
Right.
I'll help pay for the venue with you. I think only 2 people ever really helped me. Which kind of, holy shit, what just happened? All right, yeah. So I was basically a one-man show from 2014 to 2016. I had some people helping me, but not in the level of help that I need. Maybe because I couldn't explain myself better. I think that's always been an issue, communicating, which it shouldn't be. I'm very, straightforward with a lot of stuff. But I guess growing up, my father was very hard about the concept of asking people for help. If you don't want to pay someone back, don't ask for help, type of deal. So that kind of carried. But then 2017 to 2019, I had help from I was renting from the XWA event center at that time from 2017 to 2019. So a gentleman by the name of Jose Perez was the one who essentially helped run S&W on that aspect, the financing and the talent array, booking the matches and whatnot, which actually was probably the best we've ever had, because my focus at that point was just the video of it, which is what I specialize in. So video editing, graphic, and putting the whole thing together. The videos that go on the big ass screen was all me. So I did what I was actually meant to do, and then he took care of the stuff that essentially what I do now, which is really much of the pain in the ass. And then 2020, right? 2020, COVID happened, so no wrestling. Come back, I did studio taping from 2021, which is how I met Trip. Trip wrestled for us during that little taping period. David Mercury as well. Like a bunch of people came in during that time period. And then when we started doing live shows again in 2022, which 2022 was our best year. And then as soon as we go into 2023, things just got really rough. Between me bouncing, obviously personal life stuff, bouncing from Canada and the US. And it just seems like we never got off of that roller coaster ride yet, which I'm hoping now that OTTR is a part of S&W now. They're a part of the ownership group, so things are starting to shape really nicely, and I'm hoping that's what continues.
Yeah, I mean, it's always good to always have people that help you and build what it is that you're trying to look for, because at the end of the day, if everybody wants to be a juggernaut, but if you're not willing to ask for the help to be a juggernaut, then you're just kind of standing in your own way at times.
I actually agree with that, but to be fair, S&W wasn't supposed to spawn into what it spawned into. S&W originally started as a tribute memorial thing for one of the original founders who passed away before he got a chance to see it. And I guess I have to give credit to Mr. Grimm for that, because Mr. Grimm was the one that was kind of hey man, what the fuck we're doing, It's do you want to be a wrestling promotion, or do you just want to be the club, the boys club, and have the boys come in and wrestle. Like what are you doing?
That's one thing about Grimm. So he's also a friend of the show. He's very like to the point. Like he
Oh,
likes.
exactly. Oh my God, I'll tell you something funny. So of course he messaged me because we're talking about July 19th. I'm like, oh yeah, man, we have it all set. I'll give you the information, whatever. And he goes, I can't say the N word, but he says the N word. He's like, N word me, and he's like, it's only X amount of money now. He's like, I'm like, dude. He's like, why do you want to trust me getting you out here like that? Just send you the shit and you can do it yourself. He's like, oh, good point. I'm like,
a question I was going to ask you, right? Like, as a promoter, like, what are you looking for from wrestlers to like help expand Supernova? Like, how do you decide who's going to be on what shows?
Oh, geez, that is a funny story. Actually, I'm gonna add, I'm gonna use Mr. Grimm as an example. So I reached out. He reached out to me. I honestly don't remember who reached out to who. We were talking, and he gave me his pay rate. I go in, I check and I'm like, I hit him back. I'm like, unfortunately, I just can't. I told him I just can't afford that. He's like, okay, cool. Remind you, he is still in the group chat for the show that I was originally trying to book him for. Well, he's sitting in there. He never left the chat. And he watches people just cancel on me 24 hours before the show. Like, I'm telling you, I had 16 people booked for this tournament. About 8 or 9 of them just canceled on me in the row.
Wow.
Day before. So he hits me up and he's like, I'll do you a favor. He's like, I'll do the tournament for free. He comes all the way up from Maryland to do a whole tournament. He did the whole tournament. He did all 3 matches in scorching hot in a very hot building with no AC, no fan. And I think I still have the video of him and my oldest son and his son chilling there playing video games on like some handheld device. And you can see him in the background playing games. Like, and then from that point on, I'm like, that's what I need to book. I need someone who's not essentially going to be grabbing for money. Someone that believes in the actual product. If you believe in it, then I'm going to put effort into you. That's the same thing with Jake. Jake's a little bit of more of a bias, and even Mr. Grimm will tell you the same thing. It's a little bias on me with Jake because I helped train Jake.
Mm-hmm.
So I helped train. There's only like 2 people I've ever trained in my whole freaking wrestling career. So him and my oldest son's godmother. That's it. I've only trained 2 people ever fully trained someone. So and Jake stayed with us the whole 10 years. When he went and started doing training with Beyond and Showcase, he could have easily left and never came back. He didn't have to stay with me, but he chose to stay with me. So to me, it's like, obviously I'm not that bad of a person if there's people willing to stay with me. Mr. Grimm wants to come back. He came and talked to me about it. Like, this is stuff I'm talking about. If I was quote unquote as evil as people making me out to be, why are there people coming back to me that want to come back to S&W? And that's always been my argument. Like, I'm not a bad person. I think I'm probably the very few promoters you'll ever meet that will go on here and air out my laundry about all the dumb shit I've ever done, and just hold myself with that accountability. And I you know what? And it was funny because when I was on OTTR, someone said it best because he's not just a wrestler, he's a promoter too, and he agrees. There's always that one-sided story, the bad promoter. This dude's a douchebag. You never hear it from the promoter side. However, this is what I come to the conclusion: a real responsible promoter holds up to his accountability and fixes it. Not goes online and plays the victim the whole damn time.
Right.
I don't do the pity me routine. You know what? There was a time when I remember the August show. My bank account got froze for fraudulent situation. I couldn't even get access to any money. So, of course, everyone's telling me, don't worry about it. Just get me when you can. Next thing I know, I'm getting harassed for 3 freaking days. Like, dude, what the hell? Like, you're telling me that don't worry about it. We're good. Just make sure you get me. But you're harassing me for 3 days as I'm trying to get this money. And I'm always, and if you ask for an update, I give you an update. Then I get a page long thing of how unprofessional I am and blah, blah, blah. And then and I'm like, you know what? It almost wanted me to say, fuck it. If it wasn't for a buddy of mine telling me, don't do it. I probably should have hung up, but I needed to. They can always call it.
Yeah, no, it is one of those things, man. It's like, when you're open and honest with people and you're having constant communication, like that shit works out. Like people tend to understand. It's kind of like when sometimes though, if you're kind of like waiting to hear back from somebody, like you can get that anticipation, that part where you're just trying to figure something out. You're just kind of like, what are they thinking about? What are they trying to sneak off with? But I'm always a big proponent of just being open and honest with people and just have constant communication because it's one thing that I tell people, right? So one of my biggest pet peeves, right, is that let's say like I'm working with a client at the gym, right? And I tell them, meet me at this day at this time. And they say, okay, and they don't show up, right? I kind of just chalk it up to a miscommunication. Something happened, whatever. They just didn't talk to me. But if you tell me the day and time and then you don't show up, now we have bigger problems because you don't not only care about my time, you don't care about your own time. So always make sure to tell people that, like, have constant communication, be open with everybody, because at the end of the day, once you're open with people and you're holding yourself accountable, like people can't be upset at you.
No, listen, I agree that when people got mad at me from the last show, and I'm not going to name names, it is what it is. People have all rights to be mad at me. Straight out. Show could have been better. You could have had a better looking situation. Backup plans didn't fall through like they should have, and I should have had another backup plan. But then it goes back to what I'd say. Independent wrestling is the weirdest thing in the world. If I'm not used to having to lug my own equipment around. You have to understand, I went from renting one facility to another facility to another facility with everything provided. I never had to have my own lighting system, my own entranceway, all that shit, 2022 was the first time I've ever dealt with that. Yeah. So it was new to me. Actually, no, it wasn't that new because I did 2 shows prior like that, but I had my shit in order. I had a venue where it already had its own entranceway. All we had to do was bring in a DJ. We had a DJ, we never ran into as much issues that I ran into now. I call it must be some type of karma coming at me because of whatever. Who knows? But I'm up for any questions, really. I mean, I hope that answers some of it because as a promoter and a booker, it is difficult. But to be fair, what I'm looking for, I'm also looking for people that are, how do I word this? Somewhat new to the business, don't have that much exposure because they're easier to market because they're new to the market, Yeah. Like, okay, when Sean mentioned you, oh, Cliff, whatever, and Yumi talked, and I was like, wait a minute, what's the irony? Your name's Red Dog. And there's a cartoon called Clifford the Red Big Dog. I'm like, is this on purpose? And then we talked about it a bit. And but the point is, a lot of people had no clue who you were. You were going to Wrestling Open a lot. You recently, it was funny because guys at Focus Pro sent me the video of you getting bulldozed at a Wrestling Open. Yeah. And I was like, and I was the one that always kept talking about you to them. Because I'm like, oh man, I'm like, you got to give this guy a chance. He's a good worker. He's this, that, and the other. I'm not trying to overshine the shit out of you, but I'm using you as an example. There's very few people that come out from outside New England that you could plant in that could be dramatic impact in the area, but a lot of people don't see it.
Yeah.
So the problem, what I have is I bring in people that a lot of people will never look at. And I do that on purpose because Mr. Grimm, same thing. Yes, he volunteered to work for free, but I continue to book him afterwards, right?
Right.
I got shit on for it. Mr. Grimm will tell you the stories how people were like, "Oh, you're fucking the boys over because you're booking this guy." No, I'm not. I'm going to be 100% real. I'm booking them because I'm sick and tired of seeing the same people every weekend. Why am I going to book Dick and Harry where they're wrestling Friday and then Sunday in the same fucking building? Why am I do that? Oh, because the fans will come. Yeah, but then you know what? The fans have a choice. They don't need to come to my show. They're there all 3 days. Right? I bring in Mr. Grimm. He's a new attraction. Barely ever wrestles in New England. All of a sudden, Limitless Wrestling starts booking him. He's starting to wrestle a little bit here. Beyond, I don't think Beyond wrestled for. I don't know if he wrestled
Beyond.
No, well, I mean back then between 2015 and 16, he was starting to get booked a little bit more up here with Limitless and whatnot. Because he was doing a show next town over from where the hell I was, up here in Maine. So I was like, oh shit, he's getting booked, Then I see him at AEW as he gets plowed over by Wardlow, and then next thing you know, he's part of Mike Tyson's entourage,
Right.
So you're like, there you go. And I don't think he gives. Mr. Grimm's work ethic gets him where he is. Regardless, there are some people that are very much that don't like him, but his work ethic puts him where he is.
Yep.
So that's what, like Tony Clash. You don't see him anywhere else. He's kind of very just S&W. Okay. Now, Tony Clash is much older. It's not like he can go to another promotion now, and he has a family. He doesn't have that type of freedom, so to speak, between his job and whatnot to do something like that. He probably would love to if he could. Maybe he does. Maybe I'll finally get a fire under his ass and tell him to freaking go out there a little bit more. The guy's talented. He got trained by Adrian Streets. The guy knows how to wrestle. I mean, got that. Him and Frank Bones.
Yeah.
Absolutely phenomenal wrestlers. It's how much I get shit on for booking a lot of people that associated with this promotion called WAW. There are some, what I call raw talent or diamonds in the rough that a lot of people don't utilize correctly. It's my job to put you in the best place. All right? So when I look for talent, I look for talent that's not being seen a lot. Or if you're being seen a lot and you're getting some attraction behind you, but you're limited because, no one wants to take a chance with you, I'm probably going to take a chance with you. That's just who I am. Does it pay off all the time? No. I can tell you there's a couple of people I booked, which I regret it immensely, and hope people will forgive me for the horrible match I tortured them with seeing. But, once again, you live and learn. But I only stick behind people that I'm 100% confident are actually good wrestlers. David Mercury, I could have not booked him ever again. Fuck that. The guy's amazing. Why would I say no to that man?
No, that's actually so. Mercury is actually one of those guys that I saw his promo, and instantly I was like, I like him. I like this guy. It just reminded me a lot of Dr. Frankenstein meets Mr. Dr. Robotnik from Sonic the
Dr.
Hedgehog.
Robotnik.
I was enamored. I was like, yo, I like this guy's look.
Well,
and even when I got to meet him and talk with him, it was a good time. And I think that's the one thing though, is what makes great locker rooms is you can find those guys who they can all get along and have fun and know respectively how the card is going to look and where they're going to fit, and then how they can make the show better based off
Correct.
of where they are on the show.
Correct.
I know I got asked a couple times where do I prefer to be on the card? And I always tell people, I'm like I love being like the curtain jerker, like the person right off the rip, or the person right after intermission, because I know I have the ability to like lock people back in when you're like, oh, we're coming back from intermission, and I can bring people back in like instantly. And I had that, and I know I have that ability. And then it's either that, or you could put me in like right before intermission, and you know, if you need me to lose or drop, lose or something, like put me in right before intermission, because then like, I can draw that sympathy from the crowd, and they can be like, oh, like we're really upset that this happened, or oh, we're really excited that Red Dog won, or if I'm ever being a heel, man, I fucking hate Red Dog. I remember when Pure Ignorance and we were at 1CW actually. Um and this lady was in a crowd. It was like it was a triple threat tag match with Pure Ignorance, Art of War, and I forget who else was in this match at the time. Oh, the Workhorses. The Workhorses were there, and this lady was in the crowd, and I was just managing Pure Ignorance at that time. And this lady goes, "Your boy's looking a little frail." I was like, "You're from Delaware. You can't even spell frail." And she just looked at me. She's like, "What?" I was like, "Come on, go ahead. Tell me, how do you spell frail?" And she's like, "FR." And I walked away, and I heard her go, "Oh, hey!" Like later, as Pure Ignorance wins, right? This lady's in the crowd, and her kid is upset, and I'm just going in, just look at little man right here crying because his favorite team lost. Oh no. And I guess the woman, it was the auntie, she just clicks. You guys are fucking assholes. You're a bunch of cheaters. You guys suck. I was like, how do we suck? We have 2 titles. You suck because you cheer for losers, which is why your kid's crying. And then I brought the guys over to him, right? And I was like, yo, look at them. Aha. We laughing in her face. And the lady goes, his mom just OD'd. And I pushed the guys out of the way, like, we don't care. And just walked out. And yeah, so as intermission happens, right? I'm like watching the seats because I know they're gonna be coming in. They're not there, right? But I'm watching all the kids and everybody come file back in their seats, and they're getting ready to start, right? And I see 2 seats left, and I know whose 2 seats those are. It's the woman and the kid, right? And as I look down the entrance to see like all the fans coming back in, they're the very last people. And this lady walked right up to me. She put her head on my shoulder and she's like, I'm so sorry about what I said. And I was like, it's fine. It's like we're not taking it personal. And like I remember we like signed autographs and everything for the kid, like because we got it. Like we're not heartless. We're just heartless behind the guardrail. And like and I remember that lady, she became like our biggest fans. Like after that, we were just assholes, and she was like, "We love Pure Ignorance." And we're like, "Shut up, we don't like you." One of my favorite moments, though, that has ever happened to me in wrestling, though.
You know what's funny when you think about? I think of I guess I'm gonna bring up some professional wrestling, right? AEW. MJF. Man, does that guy stick to kayfabe?
Oh yeah.
Oh my god, he reminds me as much as of how Undertaker was for years. You know, Undertaker would never break character. So I'll tell you an interesting story. So Mr. Grimm told me about MJF.
Yeah.
Right. So MJF messaged the S&W page before he became famous. This is when he was doing that, when he was on Limitless Wrestling, going on that huge hot streak there, and he was like, "When are we gonna do business?" You know, started talking to him. When none ever happened. Actually, there's a couple of people I regret never bringing in. Him, I regret never bringing in Thunder Rosa and their tag team partner.
Mm.
So these are legitimately coming to me. I never went to them.
Right.
They came to me. And I'm thinking to myself, oh, I should totally book them. And I'm like, financially, cannot afford it. Just can't. Even if I could wiggle something, I just couldn't do it. I mean, the most famous person I got before they became famous was Joe Gacy. TJ Sykes will tell you about that. TJ Sykes versus Joe Gacy versus Mr. Grimm.
Yep.
And that was when Joe Gacy was the CZW World Champion, and Mr. Grimm was our Apex champion. And it was funny because what we were told from CZW was that Joe Gacy can't get pinned, can't lose,
right,
or whatever the situation was. So originally the match was booked for title, but we can't do that because of Joe Gacy. Like Mr. Grimm can't lose the belt either.
Right.
So we were in this weird predicament, very weird. So we did a modification of the stipulations. So if TJ pinned either one of them, he would get both belts. But if they pin TJ, they keep their belt and the match is over.
Right.
So that's the route we went. And that's probably the most I've ever seen Legos ever used as weapons. Dude, we had fans bringing in weapons for Joe Gacy to use. Like Mr. Grimm got power drived on Legos. So, so actually, when it was funny was after the match, I collected all the Legos and I had them in the box still. I was like, man, maybe I should I don't even know where the box is today. I really wish I had it because if I did, I would have used the old flyer that we had with Joe Gacy on it and put it on eBay. Guarantee it would probably sell. Box of used Legos from Joe Gacy. But like I said, I never really booked really famous people. To me, as a promoter, I always believe in building your own stars. Very rarely do I ever try to book a former TNA, WE, or Lucha Underground or whatever type of wrestler. I'll dabble with some ROH guys or HOG or we actually got some guys from Japan, Wrestle One and whatnot, and something like stuff like that. We almost got a couple of wrestlers from Lucha Underground too, but I was never a fan of bringing in, former WWE wrestlers. Maybe because it just makes me feel like any of those other promotions. However, I was in discussion with Ken Anderson at one point. We were in the middle of negotiating a deal for him to come in on March 15th. However, that kind of fell through, and thank God it did, because I didn't realize 15 days later he's in Massachusetts anyway, wrestling for another promotion. So it's like, oh man, March 15th. I wish I'd known there was like 9 promotions going on that day. I did not know that. So other reason why we didn't track as many people, midget wrestling was the next town over from us. At the same time we were wrestling, they were wrestling. So it was like we're gonna lose out to midget wrestling. We're probably not gonna lose out to Chaotic because they're on another 2-3 towns over from us. We weren't gonna lose out from this promotion because they're 3 towns in the other direction. We're going to lose probably to midget wrestling because they're only a town down the road from us. And midget wrestling at that point was really high in that area, so a lot of people would flock to them, and shit happens.
It also goes back to it's you kind of hit it on the head when you said about bringing in talent. There's people who could be like a new attraction. And that's what it is. It's an attraction. Like people love watching, they love watching midget wrestling. It is what it is. Micro wrestling, whatever you want to call it. I'm not really sure how they end.
Yeah, well, there's 2 of them. There's Micro Wrestling Federation and
but do they call it that?
Midget...
Do little people call it midget wrestling? Like that's what I'm wondering.
Generally, there is one called Midget Warrior Wrestling. Yeah.
No, I know. I'm aware that there's like I'm aware.
That's the name of the promotion. So
I just want to know, like,
obviously they're pretty cool with it if that's the name of their promotion.
If there's a little person who is a wrestler, write it in the comments below about is it an appropriate term to still call it midget wrestling? That's what I want to know.
Okay, so what would you
I'm not trying
call
to say
it?
anything wrong. I'm not trying to set you up for
I
anything.
mean,
I'm
but
genuinely
seriously,
curious.
what little people wrestling? I mean, okay, I get it. You can call it that dwarf wrestling. I'm probably gonna offend so many people right now. The lollipop Gil will be mad at me, but I mean, personally, me, I don't give a shit. You know, I
Yeah,
honestly
no,
think
I'm just trying to. Yeah,
I
I just want
personally
to
think the
know.
world's too woke as it is.
I want to see if I get a reply from that.
Oh
Just so
God,
someone put
could
it in
you
there.
imagine? Oh, I am so offended. I'm gonna cancel you.
But, I mean, you can try to cancel. Listen, there's been worse things said on this show than the word man. I'm
Probably.
just gonna be
Okay,
honest.
you know what? What do you think's the worst thing in today's wrestling? I mean, I personally feel a lot of people are like, "Oh, the old ways are stupid," and well, okay. I mean, it depends on what you're saying is stupid now, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I I still kind of have a problem with like people who take liberties when like another wrestler that might be relatively new doesn't really know what they're like. Maybe they forgot something and you're trying to quote unquote save the spot, and you just beat them down, and like you're trying to make something out of nothing, and I think that's like that's wrong. That's not appropriate, right? Even like in my match, right, on March 15th, right? Like I forgot a spot. I forgot a spot. So the first thing I didn't start beating the shit out of somebody in the ring. I just locked in a hold and I just asked the questions like, yo, where we at again? And then like we just went from there. And that was it. It was fair. But I was like, I didn't think about like, oh, let me go grab a chair real quick and just start smashing
Just
somebody.
make it all
Yeah.
irrelevant. Yeah.
And
So
I only say that because it was a thing, mind you. The person and I, we've already had a conversation about it. It's water under the bridge. I just keep it as a reflection to remember, like, yo, like, no, if it's happened to me, it's probably happened to hundreds of thousands of wrestlers who've come into this business, and it's like that's still a thing that gets done, right? Like we talk about that thing, or like when I used to ask this question on the show all the time, like, a do and don't of the locker room, right? And everybody would say like, do shake everybody's hands, right? And if you can't shake everybody's hands, at least give a fist bump, like throw some kind of acknowledgement, like, hey, I see you, what's up, and then the other one that was like a don't was like there'd be different ones like all the time, but one of them was like, don't be a pig. And I agree with that. Like, it's like don't like pick up after yourself. It just makes sense. Or take a shower, don't smell. It's weird. But I don't know. It's I don't know. There's a lot of like I've been hearing about things that were done back in the day, and I kind of like understand like where people are coming from. But then like at the same token, it's like, yeah, but we're not doing that in this era. Like you have to know
well,
who you're talking to.
it's like I have friends that are very old school, so they'll talk to me about it, and I'll tell them like, well, listen, to me, for example, the whole woman making a women's division. And I'm like, we're at this time, we're in the weird area, a weird generation now that it doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah.
It really doesn't. And it doesn't matter how much I am strongly for women's sport or whatever. Biological women, let me throw it out there, make sure people understand that. But I'm also at the point where wrestling doesn't really matter anymore. Does having a gender matter anymore in wrestling? I feel it doesn't anymore. I feel, well, let's be real. We all know what wrestling is, Like, I laugh when WWE still doesn't do intergender matches. Like, they're like, oh, it's still taboo. It's like, get out of that. Like, everyone does it now. I was it Shiz over in OTTR is not a big fan of the intergender stuff. And I told him, I'm like, but why? He's like, oh, I'm like, listen, the problem with today in the world is everyone thinks men versus men and women versus women has to be the status quo. If they want to be treated equal, well, guess what? You're going to get treated equal in wrestling. That's why I don't have a women's belt. That's why when some actually a female wrestler who I never ended up booking, I'm not going to say her name. I never ended up booking her because we had a conversation about that. It wasn't a heated conversation. It was very respectful. And she's like, I don't have an issue wrestling guys. But she was honest. She's like, she's like, I feel more comfortable wrestling other women. I said, that's fine. That's totally fine. Totally get it.
Yeah.
Respectful. I'll keep that promise. But I made it very clear to her, it's very hard to get more than like one woman really on the show. And if I could get another one, then yeah, definitely we'll book her,
Yeah.
Not that she was like totally against it, but she was just very strong on her belief. And I told her, I'm like, listen, wrestling is very diverse now. It's not like it used to be. And I'm like, I'm not going to not book someone if you don't want to book a guy. That's not the way I did. But if I don't have a woman for you to wrestle, I can't book you.
Yeah.
Hypothetically speaking, And then she asked about titles. And I said, all our titles are unisex. We don't have a female specific title. I mean, our first ever woman to win a belt was Delia Hayden. Her and her tag partner, which was Zaparo, they were called Beauty and the Beast. It was a jungle madman, wild man from the jungles of Ecuador, and the Alley Cat, Delia Hayden, was our first intergender tag team, and they were I think they were our second tag team champions ever. So that's a woman winning normally a men-oriented belt, right? And then Jessie Nolan became the first woman to not only win the Zaba Cup, but became the first woman to ever win the Division 0 belt and hold it for 587 days.
Right.
Which is it's a huge feat, for anyone, it goes back to what I was saying. I don't see the concept of having women championship belts anymore. Who knows?
I still think that there's a market out there for people who want to watch women versus women wrestling. I do agree, because this thing, whatever you want to call it, whether you call it a sport, a performance, entertainment, live theater, right? Whatever it is, right? Action theater, I think is another one I've heard. Whatever you want to call it, right?
I freaking call it a stunt show. Sometimes
you're essentially what you're doing is you're suspending your imagination for a short period of time to watch people put a fight on, right? Or to wrestle, right? It is what it is. But what I think is there's still a market out there for women on women action. There's still a market out there clearly for men versus men, right? And then there is a market out there for people who want to watch intergender wrestling, and there is. I mean, God forbid, the intergender bonanza, is always viewed. IGB with Dan Styles is always viewed. And it's a great time. You have a lot of great storytellers. You have a lot of great people who are in these matches, right? And that it is what it is. I mean, you get to see the best of everything. You see, hard-hitting action, or you see some lucha stuff, or regardless, you're going to be entertained with whatever's going on with the IGB. And it's one of those things where it's you look at another thing that I was going to say, because I know that I know WWE and AEW kind of stay away from it, but look at Impact, right? Or TNA, right? The juggernaut herself, right? Jordan Grace was Tessa Blanchard was the champion. Was their heavyweight champion for a short period of time. And I know they wrote the story to make it make sense, which, yes, it should make sense in a story sense, right? But they made it make sense. And guess what? Tessa won the belt. And then you have Jordan Grace also coming and winning the TNA digital title, beating Matt Cardona, right? And it's not Matt Cardona is not like a little person, right? He's very much, he's a big dude. And they told a story to make it make sense. And guess what? Hey, it makes sense. So I think there is a point to still having a women's division and a men's division, because there's still people who want to see just this, or people who want to see just that. But in some instances, there are great moments where you can have these, top people meeting against each other in an intergender match.
No. I totally I don't disagree. It just, the way I've been looking at it lately is that it's not easy to get multiple women for a wrestling show.
Right.
I mean, this is probably my second ever women's match ever in S&W history. That's pretty bad, but I'm hoping down the road that we can get more women, hopefully. That's essentially what the idea is at some point.
But as a promoter and a booker, like the other part of the thing that you're looking at too is the budget side of things, because like some female wrestlers are, I'm not putting anybody's bookings out there, but they're a couple $100 like to get them booked for a show.
Well, okay, so it's funny because
no names, but I'm just saying like.
Oh no, I know quite a few, but to be frank, I get why some of them book the way they price themselves the way they do. They are an attraction. Okay, so you have to look at it three ways. Okay, one, they are an attraction. They know they're essentially eye candy for the audience. They're really not that stupid about it. They know it. Second, they want to make sure that they're not getting gypped. If they price high, they can. Sometimes they're willing to negotiate their price a little bit lower, but they want to make sure that the said promoter sees the value in them, and not just because they're a woman.
Yeah.
And then the third one is they just don't want to be in this predicament where they're going to be used. There's some creeps out there. Let's be real.
100%.
So I get why they price the way they price.
This is also the reason why I prefer whenever you see a female come on this show, it's because I met them in person. Because I was like, I always talk about it. I was like, it's got to be so creepy to be a female in this business and just have random dudes sliding in your DMs. And it's like, hey, yo, like, what's up? Can we do this? What's up with this business and this? Do you do custom matches? Like, bro, I'm literally trying to get an education here, and y'all talking about some weird ass fantasy that you guys are having. I was like, bro, just move out, like, and I'm sure there's promoters out there that's like, yo, I'll get you the title if you do XYZ for me. And I'm like, just scummy people out there.
Do you know what bothers me the most is there was a guy that was doing wrestling shows, and he was getting caught doing some sketchy shit with female fans.
Damn, that's crazy.
So I'm at a show in Montreal helping my buddy's promotion because they're doing the show. So I'm helping produce a match. Shocker. People actually use me to book produce matches. There's people right now watching this saying, who the fuck will ever let this guy produce matches? I don't produce bad matches, people. I don't. So I digress to that conversation. So I'm in. So it's me and my wife, and we're in a staircase talking to a couple of wrestlers. We found out a couple of them are wrestling for that certain guy. I'm like, hey, just make sure that he's not gonna fuck you over. He's known to be a creep. And her response, and I'm once again not gonna say anyone's, but her response back was, well, as long as I get paid and he doesn't do anything to me, she's like, I don't care. And I'm thinking to myself, I don't know if that should be anyone's mindset. I'm saying this because there's so many women that leave this business because of certain things. That sexual abuse, even if it's not physical, can be very much verbal. And there's so many scumbags that do it and still run shows. Yeah, hell, there are even some that are actually registered sex offenders and still do shows. And for whatever reason, no one speaks up about it. They turn a blind eye as soon as they get their money.
Maybe that's the problem I have with like the when we were just talking about problems. It's the Protect the Boys Club. I have that problem. That's probably my biggest problem, like with it, especially because like we just saw what happened with back in 2020 with the Me Too movement.
Okay, so the Me Too movement is very weird. Some of that was true. Some of it was fabricated. The by the wrestler name Michael whatever his name is. Allegan, I can't pronounce his name.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
Yeah. So found out that he won his lawsuit.
Well, you don't hear about those.
No, you don't. So now listen. I talked to him. I saw the evidence. It was a fucked up situation. It was someone who he was dating. Dude, it was. And you know what's messed up? This shit doesn't go out. Everyone else goes by what they hear through the grapevine, but they don't go to the source.
Yeah.
Because if he was such a horrible human being, why does promotions like the AIWF still book him? If he was such a predator, why is he still getting booked? Hell, let's go to Marty Scurll, the villain. He's all over AAA. He never lost a booking, period, during that Me Too movement.
Yeah. We're not that. Not that I'm trying to defend, right? But that's AAA. That's in another country too. So
well, no. But the point is, look at how many people got affected, and even doesn't matter what country you're in, they weren't booked ever again.
Well, yeah, certain people, yeah.
Joey Ryan got completely. He screwed himself over on that situation. But look at that. Hasn't been booked. AAA won't touch him with a 10-foot pole. No one in the U.S., Canada, Europe, you name it, they won't. Some people have tried and got fucked. But think about it. Why would AAA won't touch Joey Ryan, but they'll touch Marty?
First of all, we probably shouldn't be saying it like that.
Hey, listen, if people want to take it that way, by all means, go ahead. Maybe there's some sexual action going on between them. But the point,
you're right though. You have a point, and it's also true. Like when you look at someone like what's his name, Legardo, that was out of NXT UK. Jimmy Havoc was another name too, which everybody liked watching Jimmy Havoc work. But then allegations came out, he instantly retired.
Oh, Jimmy Havoc quickly his career ended.
Yeah,
but think about it. The ones that ended their career, there has to be some real solid stuff.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So that's why I'm saying what I'm saying is the ones that.
What was his name? Jack Gallagher, right?
Jake Gallagher.
Yeah,
Jake Gallagher. He was not just in NXT, but he was a MMA fighter.
Yeah, well, he became now he's really like a real MMA fighter. He's like a boxer now, but when I saw him pop up, I was like, oh my god! And I think he goes by Jack now. Jack, I forget his real name.
Yeah,
but I was like, yo, that's crazy. But I remember seeing all that stuff play out, and you're right. Once all those allegations kind of dropped, and some of those were true, some of them, were not. You saw a huge change in you saw some change in wrestling, but then there's still people that is still filtered through the system. There's always exceptions to the rules. Things happen. Some people just get.
I remember when people were trying to, which I find this to be entertaining. I remember when people were trying to cancel Ric Flair when the airplane story came out.
Well, remember he was supposed to come out with somebody else, and that never happened. AEW was like, not today.
Well, okay, but the point I'm getting at with you is when that airplane story came out, the whole internet wrestling community wanted to cancel the man out.
Yeah.
Never happened. Tommy Dreamer almost got canceled for defending him. So he got
removed off of TNA.
Who did? Dreamer?
Yeah.
I thought Tommy was still there.
I'm sorry, right? But I wasn't he he was the booker, and they removed
Tommy's
him.
Still there. Tommy's still there.
I thought they removed him off of they removed him temporarily off of that and off of Busted Radio for a little bit, and then they brought him back.
Yeah. I mean, of course, because you're actually gonna let the fire.
It was equivalent to the I know this is bad. I'm not trying to defend people, right? But the Sammy Guevara situation, right, with Sasha Banks, his comment that he said on the radio. Remember, he said a comment.
Could you picture everyone getting canceled for stupid conversations like that?
Bruh. And then they removed him for what, 60 to 90 days, and
Yeah, well, I mean, let's be real. AEW
he
is more
was,
woke than some businesses. So,
but still, regardless, I mean, they took action. Like that's kind of like
oh
the
yeah, they
point.
did.
They brought him back,
But
but
then you go look at Dana White. Did he took any action against his workers? He said
hey,
it
that's a
straight
whole
out.
different. That's a whole different industry we're talking.
Yeah, but you know what? That shit happens there too. You don't think
No,
it
I
happens?
don't disagree. I don't
You know,
disagree.
but you know what? But just like Dana said, you know, freedom of speech, man. You can say whatever you want, and if people don't like you, it is what it is. Unless you
Right.
actually do it, then you're fucked, and that's on you. But
Yeah.
you know, I
Yeah.
don't agree with anything. I don't agree with sex offenders. I don't agree with these fucking. I still can't fathom how half of these motherfuckers still get bookings. It bothers me. You know, it's funny because someone wants me to book one person, and I find out from the grapevine this is what happened, and then I have to dig into the child sex offender list for all. Like, this is how bad it is now. My process. That's the other reason why I don't book everybody. I go through a process now. You know, I give conversation. I'll go to a couple of people that I trust that have been in the business 30 plus years in the business. They get a little feel about you. If nothing bad comes from their end, then I don't dig deeper. If they're like, well, I don't know. I heard this about this guy. Okay, well, I'm going to get his real name. I'm going to go into the sex offender list, and I'm going to go through it. You know, I have a process. I can't say other promoters do. You know, sad part is I did book a guy who later on we found out did some shady fucking shit, and I don't book him ever again. You know, and that was the last time I ever not dig through to find out. You know, and sometimes you have to. I mean, you have to learn the hard way, I guess.
Oh yeah, no. This show has seen that work plenty of times.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah, we'll talk story after this.
Okay.
But we're gonna jump into my favorite section of the 3 Count Podcast. That's the 3 Count Podcast 10 count questions. Mr. Saying this is how it works. I'm gonna fire off 10 questions at you rapid fast, and whatever your answer is, that is your answer.
Oh, okay.
So I'm gonna put on the imaginary timer for added pressure. Bing! And in the words of my favorite commentator, Mike Goldberg, here we go. SmackDown or Raw?
Raw.
Favorite cartoon?
Shit. Batman.
Marvel or DC?
Marvel. No, DC.
Ooh.
DC. I actually had to pause for a bit because I'm a diehard Batman fan, so I have to go DC.
I heard you say Marvel first.
I know. It's because I'm hooked.
Favorite movie?
Friday the 13th.
Let's go. Apple or Android?
Android.
Favorite TV show?
Dexter.
Good show. Favorite. I'm sorry. Chocolate or vanilla?
Vanilla.
Favorite podcast?
Pat McAfee.
Pat McAfee. So good. That's a good one. Nominate one person that you want to see on this podcast.
David Mercury.
Okay. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I'm in with that one. And last but not least, my favorite question to ask every single person who comes on this show. Favorite curse word?
Fuck.
That's a great one. It's the only one that you need to really choose.
Yeah, basically.
Yo, so those are all my questions I do have for you. So the last thing I need you to do is let our listeners and our viewers know where they can find you.
Wow, there's a couple of things. I am also on. I have S&W the podcast. It's at random days at this moment. We're trying to fix some technical issues with Spotify. I don't know what the hell's going on that. You can also find us on Facebook for facebook.com/SNova Wrestling. That's about it right now. I mean, we have Instagram and whatnot, but I honestly can't tell you off the top of my head what that is. I'm bad. So,
It's all right.
Oh, also, you can find us live. S&W presents Without Warning, Friday, July 19th, 2024, at the Beachmont VFW at 150 Bennington Street, Revere, Massachusetts. Tickets are on sale now online. So if you're an adult, you want tickets that are $5 cheaper than what it is at the door, get on the Facebook page, get that Cash App, and let's go.
Bet. Well, and then, also at that show, you can see yours truly. That's right, the SNW Infinite 8 Plus champion. I will be there as well, defending my title. Also, he gave you all of his handles. He told you where you can find them. So what do? The best part of a wrestling match. We take it home. Because this is the 3 Count Podcast presents Now Wins Ring, and I'm your host, Clifford Red Dog Miller, the man that leads you up this mountain called wrestling. And like I said, it's never about me. It's about who's into the ring. So who's into the ring? You see the man right there from Supernova Wrestling, Mr. Adam Satan. You guys know what to do. Tune in to the next episode and be there, or you're legitimately follow us on all of our social media platforms. That's right. You see him right there with Threads, TikTok. You can also find us on Instagram at 3CountPod, or you find us on X all the way on the other side right there, 3_pod. You're following us on all of our social media platforms. You're checking us out on Spotify. You're listening to us on Amazon Music. You're even checking us on iHeartRadio or whatever that dumb jingle is. You're subscribed to our YouTube channel. You're buying our merch on foryourwear.com. You're telling your mom about us. You're liking all of our stuff. You're telling your dad about us. You're leaving all those comments. You're telling your brothers and sisters about us because you're sharing this with them. And then you're also sharing this with your enemies because we love haters too. So, doing all that stuff, or really you're just kind of waiting for this episode and you're waiting for the outro, and then you're choosing another episode to listen to. Kawaii.
What's going on? It is Clifford Red Dog Miller, the man that leads you up that mountain called wrestling. And what we need from you guys is just kind of show some support, right? We want you guys to go to our YouTube channel at the 3 Count Podcast, go on to our Twitch channel, 3 Count Pod, or even our Facebook page, 3 Count Podcast, and just give us a like, follow, subscribe, even give us a comment, right? Do all that cool stuff. Share it with your friends, share it with your family, share it with your enemies, right? Or you can even come talk to us and just chat us up, right? Find us on Twitter at 3count_pod. Find us on IG and on TikTok at 3 Count Pod. Go ahead and leave us those comments. We want to hear from all of you guys. We're going to keep putting on videos and stuff like that. We want to keep making this content better, so we want your guys' support. Also, if you guys want to, go support us at prowrestlingtees.com/the 3 Count Podcast, or even find us on foryourwear.com. Give us the support. Show us your guys' love because we want to give it right back to y'all. So, in the meantime, between time, love y'all.